Google wants 200, baby.
You ready to get back to the trading action?
You aim, you shoot, and make money.
It's going to be a great day. You guys know where you're at.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Now that I see myself on camera, I know my collar's there all messed up. I'll change that. How is everyone doing this morning? What a wild time in the market. Just going to be me for a bit, and then Mitch is going to join just a little bit later. He's hanging out with our good friends over at the Fivers, talking to them, trying to convert, I guess, some of those Forex guys over to trading the good old U.S. stock market. So we'll see. It's one of those things that I've done some Forex trading. I've done some index trading, and it works great. It's something I want to get back to now that I can, kind of systematize things a little bit better. But we're going to be doing the same kind of thing, right? We're going to be looking at the markets. We're going to be trading them live and actively. We're going to be going through everything that we can see out there, taking a look at the overall indices, talking about strategy, all that kind of stuff, holding down the fort while the big man is out for a little bit. And kind of a quick choppy market, I guess, to get started with. So we can take a look here. We can dive into, I think if I hit this button, is it this button? It's that button. Awesome. Let's look at the SPY. Let's see what's going on here right off the open. And right, we came very interestingly enough to, let's do, I don't know, a 2 minute. This line right here is the 2-day VWAP, this yellow line. Came down to it. I spent a lot of time at that action, and now we're breaking down under it. Same with the Qs. So it looks like, at least for now, off the open, a little bit above that 2-day VWAP for the Qs. Just one of those that's, hey, we got to stay light in our feet. Right? We had a massive morning. See some good mornings there. Good morning, Steph. Good morning. We got to stay a little light on our feet, right? Let's go to the daily chart. Let's take a big zoom out and do some of the overall look at what's going on here. I actually like going. It's a quick tip for you guys out there using TradingView. You just type in SP 500. That actually gives you the CFD version, which is what the guys over at the Fivers and everything trade. The beauty of it is it will give you pre-market, post-market. It's basically the futures contract. It will be very, very close to pretty much exactly identical to the overall futures contract. But you don't have to pay. You don't have to pay the data for in TradingView. So there's a quick tip for you. But massive bounce yesterday, a crazy bounce. It was awesome. It was pretty much exactly what we were talking about yesterday. The second we ended the show, everything talked a little bit about how go to 15-minute, right? I was buying right in this zone after that big bottoming tail and just said, I'm going to put a stop behind that and just kind of walk away. And I did. When we were coming down to the declining 5-day moving average and I saw this big topping tail, I said, well, that's enough. I'm going to get out. And that was right near the end of the day. And just one of those pure luck times where it was right before this massive flush and then a bounce again. Again, just showing just more choppy action. There's no trend to be seen here. There's no trend to be had in this market currently. We have to stay light on our feet. That's why it's really good to be day trading. It's one of the reasons that I said I got to expand out and start focusing on day trading. Because like I said yesterday, I went on a little rant and said, we've seen all this before, right? We knew this was going to happen. So it's no coincidence that during this time and what we're seeing in the market, I said, I really should add some day trading to my overall repertoire, right? I do 99% of what I do is just systematic swing trading. I look at the overall market. I get a feel of where we are. I've got a series of algorithms I've tested for like 30 years, and I just let those run, weighting them based off of what I see in the market. However, when the market's going to be super high volatile chop, it's very hard. It's just harder to swing trade, right? Still profitable, still doing fine. But it's just harder. But it's one of those that you can really make a lot of money from the day trading side of things. So that's why I'm here, building strategies and coming up with ideas in front of you guys, because yeah, it is a wild time out there. So it's currently selling into the open. We got 25 minutes left. We'll see. Let's start looking around, see what we've got from the economic calendar. This is about when I start my day anyway. right? I think a half hour beforehand for what I do is just perfectly fine because I can take a look at the overall market, see what's going on there. We are Wednesday, right? That's the day we are today. So not a whole lot. We got some mortgage. Oh, we have Fed speak. So that's great. Do I have this? Yeah, I have this at Toronto time. So this is 8:30. So that's 9:30 right off the open. Sure, why not? Building permits. This kind of, I guess, Wi-Fi signal looking thing down here. Just how much people care about this. But we have Fed barking. What an unfortunate name. How much jokes are you going to get, especially when you're out there barking about the market? So we have that. We have new home sales, and we have new home sales month over month. So new home sales year over year, I guess, is the first one. New home sales month over month there as well. So we're going to see that could be interesting to look at, some of your home builders, your XHBs of the world. That could be very interesting. They're at a very important level. If you zoom out for a long time, this is a massive level for XHB. We'll kind of expand it to that. This is why I always draw. You notice I very rarely, except for pre-market high and pre-market lows, very rarely put a line. I put a shaded area because this zone is a very important zone. So we have the zone right here at the top, zone at the bottom. So we have home sales. So XHB may be one that's super interesting to keep an eye on, something to watch there when it comes to when we have these home sales at 10. So half hour after the market opens, make sure, chat, you're paying attention. You remind me that this is going to occur because, yeah, that's going to be a pretty big deal, I think, for the overall market is we're looking for the next thing, right? Tariffs, we know there will be tariffs. There won't be tariffs. It just seems to depend on the hour. I think the market's pretty much got that priced in. Now we're looking more at new home sales, existing home sales, things that could potentially tell us what is the Fed going to do next. I think the Fed is back in line and back in focus there. So that's what's happening today from the economic front. And then later in the day, not too much. We have oil, but that happens every Wednesday for you guys who are oil junkies. That's always a big move. And then another Fed speaker at noon. So it's funny, they're starting to shade these guys in, I think, at a higher and higher area because they're more and more important. Thursday and Friday, I think, is where things get a little bit more interesting. Durable order GDP is huge, right? That's what everybody is watching. Try to see, is the growth slowing? Is there some sort of push going on? Is inflation getting a little bit too high? That kind of thing. GDP looks, that's what's forecasted. So we need to watch that. Is this last week? This might be last week. I just ranted about last week's. Ignore everything I just said. Yeah, there you go. You should stop me a little bit before, man. But yeah, I was ranting about last week. So now let's just right. What's the Men in Black mind eraser? So let's go through what's actually happening. So PMI 36 minutes. Okay, so that's going to be after the open. That is Wednesday. We are Wednesday the 5th. I'm looking at my watch to check. Absolutely. So, yeah, Wednesday the 5th, we've got factory orders at 10. Oh, so there's a lot going on, right? You can hit this little button up here, and it just shows you the stuff that's super important today. So we have ISM, PMI coming in. I thought that usually came in, PMI and all these things came in before the market opened. But that's actually going to be a little later. So 9:45, 15 minutes after the market open, we have a market moving event. We have factory orders and half hour after the market opens. And then, of course, oil and everything still right on that. Oil still happens every Wednesday. So we got to keep in mind there, just for you who are trading, especially you're trading the overall market, just know 15 minutes into the open, half hour into the open, market-ish moving. I don't think it's like Fed numbers or GDP or anything crazy like that. Fed numbers that are these numbers that are coming out, they're ranking them as kind of a 2 out of 3. So mid-market moving numbers. So we got to pay attention to those things just to make sure that we're not getting involved. You don't want to get too heavy into something right before a big number comes out. Now let's take a look here and let's do the pre-market change. Let's just refresh this, make sure I'm getting everything here. Oh, I had it selected to the NASDAQ 100. I like to do this to the Russell 3000. The Russell 3000 contains like 90 something percent of the investable universe out there, and just to see if there's anything that's really standing out up or down. Gray means up or down within a percent, right? And then the darker green, obviously, the higher it's going, the darker red, the lower it's going. So a lot of gray, right? Markets, we just went over, right? We went over the SPY. We're saying, hey, we're roughly where we close. We can do the actual SPY here now. And we closed a little right here, and we are right here again after a lot of volatile action, right? What I say yesterday, we are going nowhere, but we are going nowhere in the most spectacular fashion I've ever seen. And that seems to be what's happening in the market. So oil down a little bit. We got technology more green than red, up a little bit, right? That's not, nothing there is super standing out. If we go to the 500, the SP 500, right there, these are going to be all the names that you know and the sectors that you understand. So technology is doing okay. And then we have some red when it comes to energy and all of this. We had, of course, an oil, CL. I can do. I'm going to sell down to oil. One thing that's really interesting, just from an oil point of view, we are getting right down to this massive, massive, massive support zone. So all these, ignore these little arrows. These are rollovers of the futures contracts, but huge level here on oil. So if you wanted to take a bet that oil is going to move higher, or at least bounce from being oversold a little bit, seems like we're getting to the kind of, put up or shut up zone, right? So this might be one of those things that we're talking about. Yesterday, we were talking about liquidity grabs. We were talking about breaks of obvious supports and push back through. That's one thing that is on my radar here, looking at, just to say, hey, if we end up getting that, that might be a trade that I just take. Just grab a couple futures contracts on oil. Natural gas, haven't checked on, still doing well. So it's up in the pre-market. Just, I have a position here. But because it's natural gas and it's crazy, I try not to check up on it too much. I just want to sit back and let it go. When it comes to some things that have just, I'm looking at my gap scanner down here, so we can go over some of these as well. YMM. This is a Chinese type play, and gapping on this, I have my list right over here of the things that I'm running through this system. So I'll be alerted to those. And of course, I'll share those with you guys as they come through. And any potential trades that I make, I'm getting closer, I promise. The setup works. The problem I'm just dealing with is sizing risk correctly, and then having the discipline to shut it down for the day. That is always the problem. I've gone through a lot of my data, doing this kind of one shot, make your money, walk away. That's great, and that's working. Just need to be a little bit better at making sure that I'm sizing the risk correctly, so when I'm wrong, it doesn't hurt that much. And then making sure that I am ending when I hit that goal. That's the big thing, I think. Just trying to retrain my brain. Don't need to pass these evals all at once. Might need to open another one. I think I'm going to open a bigger guy this time than the 20K. Just because I feel it. I feel it in my guts that I'm getting close here. But what's interesting to me about this YMM is it's gapping 5 standard deviations. It's one way that I measure a gap as opposed to percentage, because a 10% move on some stocks, a really big deal. A 10% moves on other stocks isn't. So what I do is I have a system here that says, how much is the gap based off normal price action of this individual name? So this is a 5 standard deviation gap, which means it's an incredibly rare event that this thing is going to be gapping this high. And we are up to this area right here. So of course, what I'm looking for on the I'm looking to fade this potentially. Just massive full truck, just a big trucking company here. Nice push potentially down if we can get back under VWAP. If we fail at these highs, I'm looking to potentially short this name. Again, just a massive, massive gap. Great overall look. Like if you were swing trading this, it's a great overall look. But again, just looking for little scalps right off the open as I dip back into this kind of day trading world. Another one that had earnings is OPFI. Never really heard of this guy. This one I'm less interested in fading, simply because this is what a buddy of mine who does this kind of gap trading calls a pro gap. Essentially anything that's sold off into a gap and then gaps up right away, that becomes super interesting, because it just shows that people were selling, right? People were betting bearish on this gap, and then the big gap in the other direction is pretty huge. It just means that everyone who was shorting that made this move down, everyone that sold to make this move down, a little bit more chance they're wrong, a little bit more chance they'll cover. That's the idea behind a pro gap. Works the same on the other side as well. You're looking for something that rallies and then gaps down. There's just much more disappointment, I guess, for the emotion in that gap. So you're spot on yesterday. Yes. So again, we're range bound, right? And this is why, again, I kind of consider myself lucky on that call, but we were range bound. Didn't make any progress in the evals with that one, but that was a trade I took on my personal account. Did okay. We're range bound. We're range bound in the markets, and we seem to be doing this thing where we gap down and rally, we hit support and rally. So what I'm trying to do more and more of, because ideally, right, I'm going to open up a big boy account. I'm going to use this strategy that I've been talking about with you guys to potentially pass that. But then within that, I want to then, second I pass, dramatically lower size, and then start implementing more strategies. And one of them has to be that liquidity grab strategy that we talked about all yesterday. I'm very excited to kind of build that as a room. I want to build a trading view indicator and kind of share it with the room. I think will be a really good interactive thing. And again, what I'm trying to show you guys is the same thing that's given me success from the swing trading point of view, which is it's kind of like the scientific method. We come up with a hypothesis, we test that hypothesis, we figure out a way to then kind of automate the grunt work of finding it and alerting us when it's happening. So we're not watching 1,000 different screens and every tick and really kind of overwhelming ourselves mentally. We're waiting for the alert to come through. We're doing our analysis, then we're taking the shot, and then we're either right or wrong. So that was what I did yesterday on the SPY. Again, the idea was pretty simple. We're just looking for a liquidity grab kind of under a major area, and then rocket it all afternoon there. And then now we're right back to it. So when the market opens, I'll do the same thing where I'll draw those lines, and then we'll kind of see those zones that potentially we could undercut and then start to rip through, see if I can take a trade or so with you guys live doing that kind of stuff with some of these accounts on their last legs, as I continue to build out strategy. WMM too low for me, and even Steph who trades the craziest stuff that I've ever seen in my entire life, saying it's pretty quiet out there. It feels like the market's waiting for something. It feels like that's occurring. And again, I'm a quant, so every time I say something feels like something, it kind of irks me because I'm not supposed to go by feel. I'm supposed to go by data and statistics. But it does feel like the market is like a calm before the storm kind of environment, which is fine. It just means we could play against smaller moves back and forth. Eventually, I think what I may find is this gap reversal strategy will be one, and then the rest of the time I'll probably focus on just a basket of ETFs. I like trading the markets, like that XHB after home sales. Remind me to take a look at that. I think that'd be a good one here. Some of the other names, just going down the list here of the names that I'm looking at. SLTA, no idea what this is, but this is another foreign company. I need to look at the flag here. I'm really not good with flags. France, maybe. But yeah, this is another foreign company, but it's gapping up a couple standard deviations into this range right here. So that might be an interesting one. General Motors, old GM, down pretty hard the last few days, but then gapping up here, filling the gap. Some news going on here. Let's take a look. No news going on here. Doesn't look like it was earnings either. I don't know what's going on, but did a big spike on the open and now is kind of fading that spike if we go into the shorter term chart. So this would have been the main trigger, but again, just I don't have the buying power to take these trades significantly in the morning. But it looks like it might be fading back down here. Again, I'm looking for things and I'm going through them on the daily chart saying, do I think that there's logic that these things could fade? Like NVO, which is another one. It's gapping NVO, Novo Nordisk, Ozempic, all these kind of plays. Massive area of resistance right here. If it gets through that, and maybe it's going to go through the gap. Who knows? But just gapping into a little bit of resistance. Yeah, I also read that too. The gaps maybe, or the tariffs maybe. The market, one thing I think that you'll notice that is super interesting, I'll go full screen here to rant with you guys, is that the market will get very desensitized to things like this really, really quickly. So, when the Fed was raising rates, the first couple raises were huge for the market, and there was massive market reaction. Eventually, it stopped caring. It's the Fed said, "This is what I'm going to do." Each subsequent raise, each subsequent move was less and less. And the other way to look at it is, remember, some of you may have already forgotten. Remember when Roaring Kitty came back? And he did like a series of cryptic tweets, and then he just pump and dumped GameStop on a whole bunch of people. The first time he did it, GameStop popped a whole bunch. The second time he did it, GameStop popped a little bit less. The third time he did it, GameStop popped a little bit less, and kind of so on and so forth down the line. I think the same thing will start happening with tariffs pretty soon. Well, the market will go, oh, okay, yeah, tariffs, right? We got tariffs. Tariffs are coming. Tariffs are going. Whatever it is, tariffs. And I think what we'll start seeing is less and less overall reaction. Still reactions, still going to be a big deal, but just less reactions as the time goes on. It's kind of like, the whole boiling the frog alive kind of thing is eventually we're just not going to care about tariffs, right? It's got to be a point where the market starts kind of moving on its own accord. A couple things gapping down. Box software development company. Is this Dropbox? Or is that a different company? It tells you what I know about all these things. Pure setup base for me. Down at these lows right here. This is interesting as well. And then CrowdStrike gapping down. This one's unfortunate because I actually own this in a long-term account, but I'll be potentially taking a trade here as well. I started to buy it as it started to recover from, I think, somewhere in this area, around 300. I remember. Yeah, around 300 is where I started to get in. Just they had that day where CrowdStrike single-handedly like destroyed the entire world for a day. Everything just stopped moving, and then from there it was one of those where, okay, it's starting to push up, it's starting to move. Maybe CrowdStrike's not over, and then a nice push up from there. So a nice little gap down on that one that I'll trade as well. Look at the Dow. I always love to look at the Dow. I'm one of the only old men that love to look at the Dow. Still relatively strong to the S&P 500 on the Dow. Just looking at this low right here. This is what I'm comparing everything to when I talk about relative strength. Is this January low? How much above or how much below are we to this January low? Like if you look at IWM or small caps are definitely relatively weak. And if we highlight the January low, this is just a very easy way to look for relative strength. We're well below that January low. It's relative weakness. So the Dow is relatively strong. Small caps are relatively weak. If we look at the SPY, we're pretty much flirting with that January low. So that's why it's a good reference for everything else, whether it's doing better or worse. I really recommend just picking an anchor point for relative strength and weakness. The problem with doing something based off percentages, which is what most people do, is you're not optimizing for beta. Sound like a huge nerd, which I am, but you're not optimizing for beta. You're just saying, hey, this is up or down the most. So I'm anchoring to a point, saying how much are we above or below. But if we go to RSP, and RSP is the equal weight S&P 500, and then we do again that Jan low, still a little bit above, just showing that everything's getting hit, right? Everything's pulling back a little bit. Big tech is getting hit the hardest. It's getting hit the most. And then it has to kind of, doesn't have to catch up, has to stop going down. I think Mitch said that yesterday, and I thought that was very well put. We don't need a world where big tech is going up in order to have the market go up. That's a myth, right? It doesn't need to be that way at all. What we need is we need a world where it stops going down, right? Where it's just, if tech just did nothing for the next 6 months, but then we had industrials and financials and healthcare, some of these names starting to move, that is very, very interesting. And it would push the market at least somewhat. It wouldn't be as much as when big tech leads, because big tech is a larger piece of that pie, but you could get some movement there. Another thing just popped through my scanner, which I'm going to add to the little system here, is AVAV gapping way down, 50% down. So that one's got to be added there as well. So the idea is, and the reason I have this list and I keep this list right here, is that this list is what will alert based off of this indicator, right? So I can feed this indicator that I've been making with the help of Mr. GPT for a long time. I can just say, okay, set me an alert. And then I want to be alerted, as opposed to the single name, day trade. So there's 10 symbols in this, and I want to be alerted once per bar close, because we're entering on the bar close. And then we hit the button. So what will happen on something like this is, if it prints now a green arrow or a blue arrow, I'll get an alert. I'll share that alert with you. That's more or less how I'm looking to be able to trade these markets. Ideally, one step further is full automation at that point, where, I have a entry, I have a stop loss with each one, which is what I'm working on. You see this little box up here. I built this a couple days ago, I think, with ChatGPT, in which I can put in a risk amount. And this is what's going to help me, again, with that next account, if I end up popping this account, which I'm very close to, with that risk sizing, right? Where what is happening here is that if it breaks through this AVWAP, it's comparing this price to the high of the day or the low of the day, if it's a long, and a high of the day is a short, and it's saying, here's your position size. And the hope is that that will help me size roughly correctly, right? I'm not going to use it exactly, but if it's saying, hey, trade 100 shares, I'm not going to trade 300 shares, and I may trade 70 shares, I may trade whatever, but right, it's just to help kind of guide that. So again, I just want to bring you guys along as somebody who isn't an awful I'm not an awful trader. I'm an awful day trader. So what I'm trying to do is trying to say, well, how do I swing trade successfully? Well, I swing trade successfully by having all of my work done before the markets open or close. I just set alerts. The alerts come in. I bring up a 30-minute chart. I take a trade, and away I go. But that's what I'm trying to get to when it comes to day trading, is just let the systems work for me, make sure sizing is correct and everything, and then go from there. And then when I'm done, when I've got a couple systems that are doing well day trading, probably hop over to the Forex and the index side of things as well, and then do the same thing. If I can, the more systematized I can make my trading, the more trading I can manage without really kind of frying my old man brain. Yeah, I noticed that the spreads are really, really high on that AVI. It's just got to be one of those things that we need that to shrink when the market opens, right? I say it all the time. Big guys don't trade in the pre-market, right? Which could mean there's edge. So there's nothing wrong. I'm not, disparaging anyone who trades in the pre-market. I think going where the big guys aren't is probably a really good idea. But the big guys out there, they're not trading in the pre-market, right? They're trading in the current market where there's more liquidity. So sometimes you see these really wide spreads in the morning, especially because AVI, I'm just calling it AVI because that's what's happening. But that reported earnings overnight, so a lot of the excitement is gone. Right, a lot of the thrill is gone. So what we're looking for here is we're looking to see if we're getting if when it opens, if the liquidity gets a little bit better. And if the liquidity gets a little bit better, then potentially there's a trade to be made on it. If not, then okay, all right, I got a bunch of other things here on the list. And if you guys have any ideas, shoot them to me, right? Again, you know my idea, my setup. My setup is very basic, right? I want something that has gapping. Like, so here's a perfect example. I want it gapping down. I want it spending some amount of time under VWAP. And then I want to trade a potential breakthrough VWAP and just a quick little fade. So we are open now. Let's grab the SPY and let's do it like we always do. And let's mark up the pre-market highs. Just remove a lot of this stuff. Get this out of the way. Make everything a little prettier. So we will mark up. I'm going to mark up this low. This was yesterday's low, but that was a pretty dramatic low. And then we're going to mark up this high right here. And then let's watch the overall market and just see what's happening for the first few minutes, and then potentially take a little bit of a trade as well, right? Michael, where can I share a trade strategy with you? Yeah, just uh, Michael Noss CMT, right? If you Google that, the Twitter and YouTube's and all that kind of stuff, and just ping me anywhere that you find right there. Yeah, and we'll see what you got. I'm always interested in new symbols and new strategies. So the market, a little bit of a pop off the open. So far, it's holding this low. For me, I think the trades I'm looking for on the SPY is if we undercut this area that's right here as well. It's a pine script. Yeah, I'd love that. If you have Twitter, just find me on Twitter and DM me, and I'll send you back my email address. Um, the the current pop, if we can break this low right here, that's kind of the pre-market low, and then it's also this major low right here. If we undercut that and then rally, that's kind of interesting to me. If we break and hold, this is both the 1-day and the 2-day VWAP. If we break and hold that, that one's interesting to me as well. So I want to keep that. I want to keep that in mind. I want to keep that open as a potential setup there. Don't have Twitter. Just quickly. There you go. I know that's going to blast that out to everyone, but that's fine. It's just me and 100 of my closest friends. Yeah, so hit VWAP, backed off it pretty quickly. Now we'll see if we end up doing a flush near lows there. If we get a little bit of a pop down, that would be great. Ooh. Yeah, no, a little bit of a pop down, and now it looks like we're breaking up. Looks like Avi was missed. I just wasn't comfortable with the liquidity there, as mentioned earlier, but that one is just rocking. So we'll do for the SPY, and then I'll just show you VAV. This is the exact setup that I'm looking for, right? The break off the open, little green arrow was printed, and an alert was sent. And you buy there, your stops at the low of the day. Already up a couple points. That would have been done and dusted there. YMM breaking down, so I'm watching that one. Box breaking back up. Deutsche Bank, I have this one on the list. I really don't think I'll trade it. I don't think it's going to move too much, but pretty much everything fired right off the open. Trying to not take trades directly off the open, trying to give everything a few seconds. Again, as a quant, I go through a lot of my statistics a lot. So with the next account I give a shot of, now that I've got the strategies kind of dived in a little bit, my game plan is to open up my TradeZilla to you guys as well. Document every trade I make throughout the day, and then end up sharing that with you guys, because I think that would help, right? I'm trying to come up with these strategies myself, but then of course help you guys as time goes by too. So it's interesting to see there's the SPY holding on okay. The Qs are a little bit weaker, so they're bleeding down a little bit more. They're nowhere near their VWAP where the SPY is. So tech selling off a little bit more than the overall market. So we can start to look at different baskets and different areas out there. OPFI just fade it immediately. So if this one can get back up through VWAP, I think that's an interesting one. It's a lot of duplicate this so I can move a chart down here, have more screen real estate. There we go. Look at more things as at once. There we go. Yeah, Bitcoin rallying a little bit. I think Bitcoin's always an important one to keep an eye on, just because this is really indicative of what's happening in the overall market. So we're getting a rally there today. But if we look at it on a shorter term chart, just kind of fighting above or below this low right here. So a push through there, and then maybe we go retest those. That would obviously be bullish for the overall market. The Qs continuing to be range bound, and then the SPY is actually breaking up through. So So if we get a push through VWAP here and a little bit of a close, I may take just a little bit of a shot there, a little bit of a trade with a stop at the low of the day. Just that again is that 1 day and the 2 day VWAP. So again, a push through that I think would be a pretty interesting play just to see if we're going to make a shot here through this pre-market high. If not, again, the liquidity grab I want the push down through this low, and then again taking that shot there. So those are the two ideas I have for the overall market. Let's see some names that have just come through the scanner. We got FCX, Freeport McMoran. That's breaking back up, obviously through VWAP there. FCX right here. CrowdStrike triggered as well. So CrowdStrike is breaking down through VWAP. Yeah, I'm breaking down pretty hard. Same with the market. So we are struggling with that 1 and 2 day VWAP currently. You can see the little green arrow. So the SPY would have been a potential long trigger through that VWAP, but it looks like we're getting rejected pretty quickly. And again, the low of the day and the liquidity flush there, that's something that I think would be interesting if and when we ended up getting that. So let's see here. Just going through, I've got on my other screen here, I've just got a list of ETFs that I like to just sort by what's up and what's down and see what's going on that day. 2% change. There we go. A lot of crypto up. KWeb, China is gapped and holding here. So we go FXI. Or no, we can just look right at the KWeb. Full disclosure, I'm in a whole bunch of KWeb. I'm in a whole bunch of these Chinese names and looking to potentially buy more if this kind of base choppy action resolves to the upside. That's something that I would be interested in. And it does look like we're seeing some action there, just basing around that zone. So if we can get a little bit of a push out of that, that's interesting. I don't know how much of this is going to be related to this YMM. That's one name that I'm watching. It had a little bit of a flush off the open, but is bouncing. So if we reject there, we get another blue arrow on this name. I may take a little bit of a shot there to see if I can get that as the trade or two for the day. It's another 2-minute candle gone. So if there was new alerts, I would have gotten there, but there was none. So let's go and take a look at the SPY. So this is how my day is, right? You don't hear me rant the whole day usually because we've got a couple buds here with, but it's just 2-minute bar by 2-minute bar. I wait for a 2-minute bar to close. Then I get the alerts. If they happen, I look at the stocks. If there's something that I can trade, then I'll take a shot there as well. But currently range bound. Right? Again, it feels like we're waiting for something here. It may be these reports we talked about earlier. So remember, in 6 minutes, so 15 minutes after the open, we have this, which is a 2-star type of event. And then after that, at 10, we have 3-star events or market moving events. So might be one of those where we chop and slop and try to stop out longs and stop out shorts and just do a bunch of messy action until these reports are done, and then we end up getting the real move. So I would not be surprised at all if that's what we end up seeing, where we're just kind of, I mean, everyone's patience gets tested while we wait for numbers, generally speaking, and I like it a little better. These are done and out of the way by the time the market opens, but in this case, not so much. So they're doing these during market open here. So another shot here at the prior action here. So at this, again, the yellow line is the 2-day VWAP. So that's the VWAP that is represented by yesterday's and today's action. And then the blue line is the 1-day VWAP. Quite often you can see support and resistance, or games at least, being played at both of those levels. You can see it happened a lot here in the morning, where we came and we tapped it and tapped it and tapped it and tapped it, and then started to kind of get through. So that's another green arrow. So that would be a potential buy. And then I can show you this little position sizer. So this would say, right, 85 shares of this. If I was trading something like the SPXL, this is based off $100 risk. You could see position size 110. So that's the idea, is that I'm just trying to trying to let the system do more of the thinking for me so I can do more of the yapping for you guys. So a little push up here, but again, I'm very interested to see what happens at this candle right here. And still no, just check. Yeah, this is active. So not any more alerts through there. So let's see what would have happened. So FCX looked like it broke down, but that wouldn't have been a trade that I potentially would have taken. Right. So there's the blue arrow in through here, but that's just riding up. So that still has a chance to reverse. Again, the idea with FCX here is that it was down really hard the last 2 days and now it's bouncing. So I think maybe if we get a revision lower on this name, that would make a lot of sense. CrowdStrike, this would have been a great one. Just didn't have it in me to take the trade, but that probably would have been a one and done for the day. And you can see it's the position sizer adapts here. So right, 12 shares for something like this to risk $100, as opposed to as opposed to something else, right, which is going to be a little bit more crazy there. Box, nice little break up. Deutsche Bank, I don't even know why I put that on the list. I should take that off. Deutsche Bank doesn't move at all. AV, this one would have been the move, right? I was really liking the look of that one, but yeah, the spread on that one was kind of scary in the pre-market at least. But that's exactly what we're looking for. If anyone's trying to, look at my setup and thinks it's something that it all makes sense, that's the idea, right? Under VWAP for a long period of time, breaks through VWAP. The idea is we're trying to get the people who have been who've been taught to, hey, I'm just going to buy the dips to VWAP. I think that's something that's really commonly taught across different styles, different books, and everything out there. I'm going to buy VWAP. I'm going to buy VWAP, and then, well, what if, right? It doesn't work, So let's go back to the SPY here. Again, a little bit of a pop. We got 3 minutes to that number. So made it through those two VWAPs, but now we're just still really stuck in the middle of the pre-market high, pre-market low. We are pretty much halfway down. Here, I'll do this for my buddy Steve. Right? He always looks at that halfway point, and we are right there. That's actually really interesting. If you take the pre-market high and just the exact pre-market low, that's sitting right there. So it's very interesting to see these numbers, and a lot of these are going to make sense because they're programmed in, right? They're computers that are looking and saying, okay, let's, there's a 51.5% chance that if we get to the halfway through the pre-market range, that there's a trade to be taken there. And they take that trade, they take it incredibly small, they take many trades a day, and then just kind of move on from there. So all right, we have 2 minutes until this massive number. So just FYI, if anyone's holding any positions that you may not want to through a big number like that, just know we have that number. So in a minute or so, we're going to get whatever this composite PMI final, wicked name, NVO has come through the scanner here for a breakdown under VWAP. So this might be one that I take a little bit of shot on. I'm going to watch this name, and again, you see it's doing the position size for me. It's basically saying, hey, take 133 point blah 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 shares. I would just take 100 shares and call it. So if this ends up being a trade to take, it's not really moving too much. I'm kind of just trying to wait for that number to get out of the way. I really don't want to trade anything too heavily with 30 seconds until a number. Knowing my luck, the number will come out and this thing will just kind of flush dramatically. But yeah, we've got a couple seconds left here. So it is out. So does the market care? Let's go check. SPY. Not really. Right? Made a little bit of a move. Not nothing too big, nothing too wild there. So that is out. The actual number doesn't matter to me. It's just what is the market's reaction to it. So market really doesn't care too much. So now the next thing is in 15 minutes. This is one that is a 3-star event. This is showing as a um, more significant event, right, than this one, which is a 2-star event or a 2 Wi-Fi bars or whatever you want to call it. Right. Again, if you click this and you only want to focus on the real important events, you can see this big one today, nothing on Friday, and then or nothing on Thursday, and then a bunch on Friday. But this event seems a little bit more interesting to the overall market. So let's just see if we can get through this 50% area on the market, maybe another little push higher. I am going to take this NVO to the short side, stop there, and then shoot for my $100. There we go. So the way I'm looking at this, again, for now, just to deal with the trading demons I have and to work my way through this in kind of a calm way, is so I did end up taking NVO short, just FYI. And then my stop's just right up in this area right here. And then I'm targeting pre-market, a little under pre-market lows, which would be around that $100 mark. That's the goal, is to kind of hit that, and then to remind myself to no longer trade after that event. That's the big thing, because if I were to chart my P&L for you guys over the last month or so that I've been trying to do these challenges, it's right, big spike up in the morning and then give it all back and later or get stopped out in the afternoon. So I just need to take the money and run, as the song says. Let's take a look here. So that's the trade that I'm in. That's a stop loss. That's a profit target. I'm pretty much just going to leave those unless some crazy action takes place. This isn't a huge mover, just because it's foreign. So most of the action is going to take place after hours. But the other idea that I'm looking at is I want to take a look here on the S&P 500 and take a trade there. So those are the two trade setups I'm going for currently. Is right, again, the trade setup of looking at these VWAP fades, because I like them. They're working. That's great. And then also a trade or two a day on the S&P 500. And the reason for that is then I could transfer that, maybe get an account with our buddies at the Fivers, trade SPXL or triple or quadruple leverage instruments. And the liquidity is there. That's the big thing with those names. There'd be no upside to those things. The way with these other ones, there'd be a little bit of an upside too, although that upside would be very, very handsomely done. Plus, in the future, this AVWAP strategy, I'm planning on automating it, right? I want to completely remove the thought process of it and just say, system, these are the symbols I want you to trade today. Click in the button, it trades them, it sizes them correctly, puts out stop losses, does all that kind of stuff. And then I just monitor the system and maybe exit positions when the time comes. But looks like we're pulling back a little bit here on the market. This is kind of that action that I talked about that would just potentially frustrate all sides, frustrate everyone involved. Because this event that we've been talking about, we got now 10 minutes until this event, this factory orders, whatever this guy is. This other one came out and no one seemed to really care. So this one seems to be the big one, right? 3-star factory service. You can read all about them here if you're that type of nerd. I am a nerd. I'm not that type of nerd. Good job, Steph. She's got a McMuffin with GV. When you train GV, always the weirdest looking symbols that you find. Oh, so that might be an interesting one. Trying to stay away from these crazier low float type guys, though, just because, again, if there is nothing that I can say, if there's no advice that you take from me as a trader, it's the thing that changed my trading, my swing trading, is keeping data and testing things and testing things and testing things, right? Actual active trading should be a very short event. You see, we only run this for 2 hours a day. It's pretty much where all the action is. And then, right, you should move on. But that doesn't mean you're done for the day, right? It means that you go and you look at your stats. For me, these low float guys they're not it. They're not it for me anyway. But that triggered right there at 230 for that VWAP fade kind of strategy. 150 would be kind of an ultimate target for it. Shane's looking at ANF. So that's kind of, I see what you're looking at there. Down day, ugly day. Tried to gap, failed a little bit miserably, and now looks like it could be coiling down to lows. So what's the daily chart on ANF? Look, this thing I own this through here. This is why this always impresses me. This was the real meme stock back in the day. Look at 2023 all the way till mid 2024. Like, not a downtick the whole time. Is crazy. And now it looks like that's reversing. So those pants were very popular for a period of time, and now they're not so much. So nice little push down. I like it, right? Gap down and gap down on an earnings beat. So this means that guidance probably sucked or whatever it is that they're looking at probably wasn't the move, but I like that, right? I talk about it all the time. I don't care about what the news is. That doesn't interest me too much. What interests me is the market's reaction to the news. And in this case, the market's reaction to the news on ANF was, we don't care if you beat both top line and bottom line. All we care about is whatever you said on that conference call after that got us real scared. And now we're starting to push lower on that. So that's good. I like that. Not my setup, so I can't take it, right? As a systematic trader. So now that we've flushed down back under VWAP, we are right back above. So another green arrow being printed there. Some good looking trades on those green arrows, but just not interesting. Not interested. We've got this. This is what's keeping me out of trading the S&P 500. I've got that NVO short update. It's done absolutely nothing. Not a move. This might be one of those that I develop a time stop for to kind of reclaim that buying power, because it's just not doing anything. So if it doesn't do anything for the next, say, few minutes here, let's say by the time after this factory orders number comes out, then I'll just exit the trade for whatever tiny gain or tiny loss I have, and look for something else. Look for something that's moving a little bit more. So TNPX, Shane is trading there. Ooh, yeah, that's a good looking. So that's a biopharma. Massive push down. So this could just be a nice little relief bounce from there. Huge move. A massive push down. Oh, that was a split. So they did a 1 for 100 split. Yeah, they did a 1 for 100 split there. So just showing that. So yeah, if you zoom out, ooh, holy smokes, it keeps going. So this is 19 billion 500 million $400,029 a share. That's what it was at open here. So of course it's not. It's just this thing splits along the way, but could just be a nice little oversold bounce on this kind of complete dog of a stock here. VIX is up. We can go look at the VIX. Yeah, up a little bit. Right. It's still, I look at the VIX and I kind of just see this. Again, technical analysis on the VIX triggers me, so I'm not doing it, but I'm just saying these are the levels that are interesting, right? A low VIX versus a high VIX versus a huge VIX. We're still in mid to low VIX kind of territory here, even with the market action, because the market action's been choppy, but just a little bit more high volatility chop. So yeah, mark back down again. 6 minutes till this number. Again, I think that feels like what the pause in the market is, just waiting for this number. So a little bit of a sell there. So perfect world, we kind of undercut this support right here and then look to bounce back through. That'd be a trade that I would take. Steph, I'm always interested to say, even if I don't have the screen and Mitch is talking, every time you type in a symbol, I look at it just because you always find the craziest guys. CDXC, Chromadex Corporation. So earnings, great gap on earnings, and then a little bit of a delayed move, and then starting to rip. So this is an interesting earnings play. It's a massive resistance up here at $7-8, but it clears through that. Yes, next huge area is at 21. So this could be a little runner. I like that just consolidation on the daily chart, and then I like the gap through that, just showing that that's a very significant move there. I'm actually going to add this one to the day trading list just in case, because it doesn't seem one of those super crazy low floaters. Just in case we fade VWAP a little bit later. CDXC. Bam. All right, 5 minutes till the number. The chop continues. Let's go around the market. Let's look at the rest of them. I think we're going to see pretty much the same. Look at the Qs. Yeah, a little bit weaker, below that pre-market range at that level from yesterday. So we can mark that up there, that level from yesterday. Close to new lows, so relatively weak for that. We look at IWM, which are small caps. We actually got some relative strength on the small caps. Not a sentence I say very frequently, but we are seeing that a little bit right now. We have 4 minutes and we're seeing a little bit of a sell. So there's the SPY going between the lows. I hope it doesn't do the setup that I was waiting for before this number, because I'm not just going to take a trade into a 3-star number like that, because it's one of those, sometimes it's going to work for you, other times it's going to blow you up entirely, and you don't really have a say in the matter to know kind of which is which. You're just kind of holding and so we'll see here. 3 minutes till the number. We are bleeding through that major support on the S&P 500. Major level to bleed through here. So that, of course, is not only, we're using this as a bit of a proxy for the pre-market low, but then we're also looking at the place that the bounce came in here yesterday, where we had that bounce and we had that revision back up. It's one of those pushes that are really interesting. Again, if we can get them there. So looks like we're getting that bounce already. With 2 minutes to go till the number. I wish. I wish we saw some type of action after the number, because this might be the setup that I was looking for. So if we get a close back in this range, it could just be simply a buy with a stop at the low of the day, and then look to take a little revision scalp higher. But yeah, again, 2 minutes till the number, not something I'm going to take going into that by any stretch of the imagination. We wait. Update on my Novo trade. It's still done nothing. Not a single thing. So we're just waiting here. We got about a minute until this number, and this is a 3-star number that's happening in the day. It's not something that I would potentially care that much about, but it's happening during the day, and it's a pretty big number, right? So let's look here. 34 seconds. I'll leave that red clock up for everyone so they can just kind of look at that and say what's going on. Got another good short on GV. 4 seconds. So GV. Well, it could be getting back through that VWAP there. So big spike right off that number to begin with. Some nice little push higher. Looks like it may have done my exact setup, but being nice, being good kept me out of taking that trade. So the only trade I've got on is this NVO, and it still hasn't moved. So I'm really just tightening up the stop on this one. Basically, I'll exit it if I need the buying power for any reason. If I see another setup out there that looks interesting, I'll take that shot. But the nice initial push, right? And we were at lows, kind of scared everyone off, taking a push in the other direction. We'll see if that holds. YMM, it's flirting with that VWAP. So it triggered on that candle, but still nothing that I would take just yet. I want to see it below that low right here. This is where a little bit of discretion can come into these names. GV, however, is one that is interesting to me if I was trading these kind of lower price ones, just because, like you mentioned, another big spike and then back through that VWAP there. Just trying to stay away from these small cap kind of lower float type names, just based off the stats. They just don't seem to work with this particular strategy that I'm working as much. I think they just might be a little bit too volatile. So like MASS yesterday, MASS, I think I took 2 or 3 trades on this, and they were all losers. And then that was the end of me for the day. So again, trying to avoid that at all costs on some of these lower flow ones. But I know this is what you do, and right, you nail those. So obviously keep at it if that's something that you're trading and it's working out well for you. All right, let's go back here. Look at the SPY. A little bit of a pullback here, but still looking good. Are we getting that? Let's take a look. If we get a trigger on the Qs, my little green arrow trigger, I may take a shot there. So no, currently still struggling with VWAP, not able to make it through that VWAP. So yeah, this is, I think, the comment of the day right there. Right, just chilling. This chop is untradeable. I think you're right. Right, yeah. If you're like a hyper scalper, you're in out, in out, in out, in out. Then yeah, take the trades, take the scalps, have a good time. If you're someone who's trading these really low float stuff, they don't care what the market, right? They're not caring about whatever news it is. They're just taking trades because there's some news event and that's something that's happening. But when it comes to just the overall market, again, this was kind of the one idea that I had today, and it took that trade as well. And now it seems like it would have worked perfectly, but I just can't. 3-star news event, not really big into. Let's take a shot here right before this news event. Just can't do it. So let's take a look at the heat map here. Let's just go and let's see what's up today. See if anything's really standing out. We have Apple down 1.5%. They released a new iPad that I was actually looking at. Just getting creamed there. So that might be interesting. If that can hold on, that would obviously be continuously bullish for the market. So a nice little push up there. Might be breaking the current high. And then the next thing would be the pre-market high. Just no trade to be seen here on this guy right here. What about the rest? What about the Qs? What about the IWM? No. If you're talking to me, absolutely not. A, I'm Canadian. And then B, it couldn't be bothered. I was back testing an earnings gap strategy from a swing trading point of view last night. That's where I spent my nerdy time. Interesting here. So IWM has smacked that zone and then reversed from it. We're seeing a lot of these where we broke the high of so far today, and now we're reversing from it. So if we're talking, I'm not going to take this trade, but if we're talking this whole liquidity grab strategy you want to look at, I think that might be one that we take a look at. Is the market just going to coil back down here now that it's broken through that high and then it failed. So I think we need to see a little bit of action just to see if it's something that's going to end up continuing to break through, something that we're going to continue to see a move, or whether this is going to be something that ends up reversing from there. So we're going to watch that one. Economic calendar, we're done. We got crude oil inventories. They happen every week. I don't think they really matter one way or another when it comes to the market. When it comes to crude oil inventories, I don't think we're super excited if it's happening. But yeah, AV. So this is going to be the miss of the day for sure. It triggered. You can see if we put in the strategy here, right? There's the green arrow saying, hey, we're breaking above that VWAP. Get involved there, take a shot. It was too whippy for me. The ultimate target on this strategy is this point right here. That's the 2-day VWAP. So it's the VWAP for today and yesterday. That line there as well. If that's what we're seeing, it's great. I'm not quite going for that yet, just because it seems to happen pretty frequently, but not hugely. So we'll end up pop that back, show that. We'll end up seeing that this pushing through here. So looks like we got some guests coming in. Someone you may recognize just popped into the room here. But yeah, that AV was, again, textbook setup, exactly what I wanted to see. Didn't end up happening. And now we have the SPY just testing this high. If we fail at the current day high, which is this level of resistance, it might take a little bit of a short here in the SPY, but who real knows. But we got some people. Should I bring the people in? Let's see what's going on here.
Let's do it. What's up? How we doing?
Hey, what's going on? How was your chat?
Yeah, I was having fun on the Fivers side of things, guys. Lost a little bit on the first Q's attempt back to the upside. Now I'm long on TSLL, but we also got another trader that's going to be joining us in just a second.
Cool.
Jorge is going to come on and trade with us. So we're going to have a party, guys, and you guys joining out over right now from the Fivers. Welcome to the show. This is what we do on a daily basis, guys. So we'll be taking some trades and keeping things going. We'll be bringing on Jorge, that was our champion from the competition. Going to continue going. So all you guys joining in right now, welcome to the show, guys. It's good to see you guys out there. Let's keep things going. Let's take a look at what else we got out here. All right, let's go ahead. Let's bring in Jorge already. Let's just go ahead. Let's bring him in, see what he's seeing in the market. I know he keeps up with a lot of these small caps. I'm looking at some of these small caps this morning. I lost about like $40 on one. I'm looking around to try to find the next one. What are you looking at in the market right now, Jorge? How are you seeing it?
Hey, good morning, guys. It's good to be back here again. Well, today is a very slow day for me. I just took my first trade this morning with GB. You know, I've been watching GB. Yeah, I took a long
long
position
or short it?
when I saw that.
I long it.
Yeah.
All right. I was wondering if you were shorting me, Jorge.
No, I saw that double bottom. You know, I took a long position with a stop right below the lowest of the day. And yeah, just a quick scalp, you know, nothing big, quick scalp, $65 of profit. But that's about it. I mean, very slow day. You know, I remember last Thursday and last Friday were no trade days for me. There was more action Monday and yesterday, but today, not a lot. But all good. How you doing, guys?
Doing good, guys. Trying to continue the battle, man. It's been tough. I'll be honest. Yeah. Can you hear me, Jorge? You can hear me?
Yeah,
okay, perfect.
I hear you.
StreamYard has been having some issues, but no worries. We'll keep it going here, guys. And we definitely had some reaction off of that 10 a.m. number. I'm sure you saw that, Michael. Good reaction on that first pop. Now the only question is, can the Qs hold in here? How are you seeing it right now, Michael?
Well, we were watching while you were gone, right? Same thing we were doing yesterday. We were talking about this liquidity grab, sweep, whatever the kids are calling it nowadays. This low right here from yesterday, right? They were right into the number I was saying, and I was telling everyone, I was saying, listen, I want to buy the breakout, the fade, and the pop through this zone. I want to buy it, but they're going to wait and they're going to do it during the number. That's what I was just like, they're going to do it during the number. They're not going to give me a chance to get in. There's no way. And that's
Not
exactly
gonna
what
give you
happened,
the
right?
chance.
And
Yeah.
they undercut and they ripped it through the number. I don't know, at least on my chart here, I'm showing a gap on the SPY and on the 2-minute chart. So
That
they
thing
really
went
ripped that.
fast, man.
Yeah. So now we're seeing a little bit of the other side, right? We went right to day's high. We're kind of fading that a bit, but we're still really in the middle of pre-market range. That makes me think that might be it, right? Took a little shot, had a fun time. I was done with it. The only trade I took was this NVO. I'm going to be stopped out here in just a second. So it's the only. It's been a day, right? Just like you were saying, Jorge, where it's just it feels like the market's waiting for something. There's not a lot going on in any direction for really anything.
Yeah, no, one thing I'm noticing at least, and I talk about it all the time, how small caps can come and go into favor. And I think right now we're not seeing it. We're not seeing it. I think Jorge's seeing that, and also especially keeping up with some of those names, and just not seeing it in the morning either. When I come in the pre-market, that pre-market trade that literally got me the account is not present.
Yeah.
It's just not present, man. I was watching this morning, had a pretty nice setup, and that was on BTAI. I'll share my screen here so that you guys can see it. I'll just give me a second. And I just got out, and it was kind of annoying because it was one of those that I felt like the setup was there the whole time, and it just never moved. And I think that there was little spikes in it, right? Like this setup here, and it was a nice little setup for it to go back through the kind of that 331 look. I got stopped out right before like 8 a.m., like right over here. But it was just more along my ticking time bomb went off. I was like, why isn't this thing going? It had the perfect look to kind of break this trend line off of this, right? Then start to hold on this pullback, looking for that expansion move back to 4. It's just not happening. What I'm thinking also too is that, and I've already mentioned it, how there's a couple of Furus kind of running right now, kind of chat rooms, and they're running a lot of kind of these trials right now. And I think that a lot of them are just selling into these quick little pushes. So this was like a 20 or 30 cent push, got sold into the 340s. Another 10, 20 cent push got sold into like kind of 338s. So this is happening often right now. And when the patterns don't continue, that's when you need to be careful for in the small caps, because all you can do, you can just start giving up a bunch. GV was a perfect setup here also, I think, to get that continuation, just not getting it. And now you're getting those liquidity scares and things like that. So you got to be careful. I think we've been seeing more and more of these kind of grabs. And a lot of times this is when traders just don't know where things are going. And so I think right now there's certain times where you got to hit the brake pedal on small caps and look elsewhere. And that's why I think it's so important to have different trading strategies and not just one strategy underneath your belt, because you can just start giving up money over and over and over again, right? So that's the hard part here, is looking for any of these patterns to actually hold. And I'm just not seeing it.
Well, and this is why we talk about it all the time, the importance of having multiple strategies across multiple instruments and multiple trading styles. And right, so you guys who are here from the fivers, right, there's going to be times where Forex is moving. There's going to be times where Forex is doing absolutely nothing, right? So it's the same within equities. Like you mentioned, these small caps aren't moving. I think this is like an animal spirits thing, right? You know, if the market's ripping and everyone's making money and everyone's happy, you'll start to see these crazy small caps just soaring. And then when everyone's a little bit more nervous, a little bit more timid, maybe on the back foot a bit, everyone chills out a bit and you see less and less small cap movements. That's why I was talking today about how you know, I want to take another shot with different account and do more index trading, right? So basically looking at maybe doing the VWAP fade push, right? And then on one account or maybe just a big account, and I split the two of them, and then doing these more index trades, right? Because this sweep and score that we kind of saw on the SPY, we're seeing that a little bit here in reverse now. So right, we undercut this important low that I drew, and we rip, and now that this is just the current day high, we break that, and now we're breaking down a little bit. So just it's a choppy market. It's frustrating both sides, but it's just one of those markets where you got to just stay on your feet. You got to stay nimble. You got to take small profits. You got to, and Jorge was saying that earlier with his GV trade, right? Got in, he said he took a small profit, moved on, and now the thing's looking like it's going to break down. So if you were greedy and you really held on, then it'd be a little bit of a harder trade. But yeah, take the money and move on from there.
Yeah, definitely. It's so important, guys. And I think it's also important to realize when things are good and when things are bad, right? And that's the hardest part, I think, of trading. Sometimes being patient, right? If you're a trader that trades often, one of the things that I always hear is that it's really hard just not to trade, right? Just not take a single trade. And I think that that's where we're at right now. And a lot of the market with this choppy action, if you're noticing you're not winning, sometimes you just got to just literally either go to a size that won't hurt you both ways, but it's probably not going to make you money either, right? I'll be honest. And so, and what you're trying to do is more feel out the market with that size, right? Go to a size that you can just feel how the strategy is working or not. If not, another thing is just going on the sideline altogether, right? And then waiting for, let's say, weekly levels or monthly levels to actually break, right? Versus just staying within this range, getting chopped up within the range and then expecting things to change, right? It's a tough time right now. And I think that the hardest time in the market is when uncertainty is back in. And that's usually when markets are coming down. So I think another thing to look at is the same way you do on the up move, right? Look for stocks that are maybe dropping consistently daily. They just keep falling and falling. One that I had on the playbook that I probably could have traded today. It hasn't done too much on the action today, but I'll be looking to see what happens. Is Boeing. That thing's been on a quick decline in the last couple of days, and these are the ones that can happen where it looks like a bullish setup is setting up where it was going to 190 and it said forget your 200. I'm going back to 160, 150s. So another thing is this one had the negative catalyst of Trump pretty much calling it a disaster. But I think like that's what you need to be also thinking about now is not only trading things that were trending to the upside, but maybe now what's trending to the downside and shorting it, things like that.
Yeah, if the market's stuck in a range, right, what you do is you try to find things that are not stuck in a range. It's one of the main benefits of stock trading, right, is you don't, right, the SPY, if we go to the SPY on the daily chart, we haven't done anything, right? We go to the SPY, again, nothing for 3 months, up, down, a very violent, a very scary nothing, but nothing's happened for 3 months. So yeah, it makes perfect sense to go, okay, well, let me just ignore this and only trade things that are outside of their kind of inner term range, something that's showing relative strength, relative weakness, whatever side, who cares? Just play it. And yeah, it's just because we're hanging out at this bottom. If we end up just closing here today, like we're seeing on the SPY, and then bouncing, who knows? Maybe we get right back to the top. Like it's just, again, choppy action. But the beauty is not everything's choppy. So like this GV, for example. And there's another one that Steph mentioned that I really like the daily chart of. Let me scroll. CDXC, was it? Yeah, that's like this kind of thing, right? This is nice because this is an earnings beat, right? So they beat top line, they beat bottom line, nice gap up. The thing's opened at 650s, run all the way to 850, and it's flirting with this high right here. So it gets through that from a swing trading point of view. This is a really interesting one. Massive base it's breaking out of here. So
we're seeing that we're having that issue on trade the it's a StreamYard issue here. I got you. Let me change it up a little bit, see if this will make it move. Let me know if the charts are showing up. Do the dance. We're doing the dance, guys. We're doing the dance. Sorry, the charts have been a little weird today, guys. So let me know if this fixes it.
I see him. I got a stream open in the other side. It looks like it's
It's showing now.
It's showing now. Okay, there you go. Appreciate you guys, chat.
Back to the dance.
Back to the dance. That's what we're calling it. The dance. Do the dance. Do the dance, guys.
So adding to what you were saying, guys, I think
tell us what you're seeing.
If you can exercise discipline during the slow times, it's gonna help you a lot during the hot moments, right? So I think discipline is crucial during these slow times. For me, again, last week, Thursday and Friday, they were no trade days. Today is very slow, so I prefer to stay on the sideline rather than just taking whatever trade out of boring.
Yeah,
So,
this is where it's hard. It's hard, and I'll be honest, guys. This is where, and I think it's the things that isn't talked about often, right? I talk about in moments like this, like you know, and we're a proponent of you guys sticking around here. Sometimes, hey, you just like to just listen in to us and don't trade. That's okay too, man. I
Mhm.
won't be upset. You can close down your platform, just have fun with us, talk in the chat. Tell us about something you want to talk about in the stock world, right? We can get into something. And you'll see Michael and I do this sometimes when we just see the market slow too. We'll just start having conversations about the market. Why? Because we know that if we just stay looking at every tick, 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 what happens?
Yeah.
You start ticking inside, man. You're like, oh, but I want to trade. I want to trade. I want to trade.
Well, it's funny, you know,
It
someone who
happens.
worked at a physical prop desk for years, you would notice that if everyone's dead silent and you just hear clicking away on keys and mouse is clicking, you're like, okay, it's a very active day for the market. Then there's time where, you know, everyone's turned around their chair and they're shooting it with the guy next to them and they're talking about the game last night or whatever their favorite beer is, and you're like, okay, the market's doing nothing. Because it's important to kind of have these communities too, to distract yourself, right, from the moments, right? Trading should be very small moments. It should be, even as a swing trader, as someone, right, myself, who I'll hold for weeks, the actual act of trading is a very small event. It's going to hit the button and go. Right? We're seeing a little bleed down here on the overall market, but between those moments, you just kind of shoot it. And it's one of those, you just hang out and you pretend and you just do something to keep your hands off the keys and distract yourself. And then when it's time to hit a button, there's times that there could be dead air on the show. And that's probably because we're both really focused on a trade that's going on. So that flush down to the lows right here and back to this line is really interesting to me, because I don't
Yeah.
think we just hold it that cleanly.
Yeah,
that doesn't seem
this is
right.
when it gets tough, guys. And I think that one of the things that I've been noticing more and more is that when times get tough, and maybe Michael can look into this, right? When times get tough, when there's uncertainty, maybe it's market corrections that we do the research on. Is range trading just the better way?
Mhm.
Right? Is range trading should we only be looking at range trading during uncertainty, or where maybe the VIX is above a certain level,
Yeah.
right? And I think these are things that you can look at and do some research, right?
I know a very successful multi-million air trader who uses the entire VIX
Taking a shot GV here, guys.
um, just to see his kind of, not his trading style, but his trading time frame. So basically, his thing is VIX over 25, I'm a day trader, right? VIX under 25, I'm a swing trader. VIX under
I
like
like that.
15, I'm an investor. And
Mm.
he just whatever, right? Because I always joke with him. He's like, the summer's coming up, I hope the VIX goes under 15, because he just wants to, right, buy a bunch of stuff and walk away and go do some stuff in the summer. But
Yeah.
so that happens a lot. And then also, in talking with him about this, he'll say, well, you know, that VIX in that over that 25 area where I'm a day trader, I'll still focus on individual equities. He says VIX over 30, I'm just focusing on the index. So what he's doing is he's going based off of what the volatility is happening on the overall market and deciding, is this a place that I want to trade? Is it a time that I want to sit in cash, or is it a time that I just want to sit in investments? Like, what is it that I want to do? And by doing that, again, there's times where he's very active, there's times where he's not very active, and he uses the VIX for that. So that's an interesting idea. So that I don't know. I'm not trusting this bounce that we just had
It's
off the
so
lows
hard,
there.
man. It's
I'm not
so hard. I'll
trusting it.
be honest, man. I've been getting eaten up in the chop, man, and it's tough. It's tough. It can really kind of start to affect your mental capital. And that's another thing I think that's important during times like this, right? So the brake pedal is not only just for the cash, it's also for your mind. And I think
Mhm.
it's so important, right? Because the number one thing that you don't want to do is wreck yourself in these downward times. And then when the market comes back, like Jorge said, then you can't take swings because your mind's all in the gutter, right?
Yeah.
And that can easily happen as a trader. I can tell you guys it happens to me. It happens probably to Michael at certain times. It's happened to Jorge. It happens to all of us. What we need to do is understand that there's also mental capital. Protect that also, right? It's so important, guys. In sideways markets, the number one thing that you hear the quote, right? That the market can kind of stay irrational,
Yeah.
into longer than you can stay solvent. And I think that's what you got to be thinking about, right? When you feel like the markets moves just don't work, well, then why trade them, right? And I feel like that's the hardest thing as a trader to do. Also, it's okay to sometimes just be like, hey, man, maybe just this week's not it. And I need to wait to see the market kind of play it out, right? That's where, if you're not like where your bread and butter, like you're feeding your family on trading, you can make these calls where you're just like, well, I'm going to take a couple of days off, wait till we break this range, and then I'll start looking at trading again. It's fair.
I'm watching these lows here. I'm watching the 575, 75. We break that, I'm gonna pop
All right,
in
guys.
a little short.
So GV is the one that I'm in, right? And I'll show you guys the trade here. This is a small cap, guys. Small cap trade here. You guys can see I'm down 41, like I told you guys on that BTAI trade. So I got in here after what I thought was that liquidity grab, right? Which was that move to 220s with a cut down. Why is it that move? Well, if you just scroll back, I mean, you can clearly see this support, right? So then I saw this wick right here. We went to 217, and I said, you know what? I want to just start risking off of that spot, not this spot, because this felt to me a little bit too far away. So now I'm just looking to see if we can go back through the trend line, right? So trend line approach, just looking to see if we can get back through the trend line. If we can get back through the trend line, maybe we can get that 250s to show up. The 250s, I tried to play it here. You'll see it here, 255. I started to get the move, and I got out at the 56. It just didn't get the continuation. So now that we've got that liquidity move, let's see if we finally get the continuation and a big pop. It needs to be a big one, because that's what hasn't been happening. The moves have started to go. It pops, sideways, and crashes.
This might be the most boring trade on planet Earth, but I'm just shorting now some General Motors. I don't know when the last time I've traded General Motors is.
Oh,
but
man. It's not a bad look, man. I like it here. I like what you're looking at.
Right. So this is the system for those people joining us, right? I'm a systematic trader, right? So I'm someone who I build systems behind what I do. I have those systems tell me what to do. It's been very, very dead today. I ended up getting out of NVO. There was the only trade I took, and I got out pretty much like tiny loss, scratch. But I'm looking at the SPY, and I'm saying to myself, and I said to you guys, I don't trust this bounce. I think this bounce is moving lower. I think we're breaking these lows just because that bounce didn't look good. And you can see up here in my alerts, it says GM, right? So this alert came through when this blue arrow was printed. Again, this is we're dancing again, they're saying.
Dance time again. I got you. Dance. Ready? 1,
do dance.
2, 3. Oh, 4 dancing.
4 dancing. There we go. We're back now. I just checked. So the idea is these blue arrows, these are the algorithm, and it's just looking to short things that are above VWAP for a period of time, and where the 1-day VWAP is above the 2-day VWAP. So the idea is I'm going to look to take a little bit of short there. The reason I added this is that if you look at the daily chart, right, you can see this very, very weak, broke support and gapped up a little bit. But this has just been an incredibly weak name for a long period of time. So a little bit of a gap, a little bit of action, and it's going to move with the market. So if I'm right about my S&P 500, then I should also be right about GM, and just seems to be a good place to take a little bit of a short. So I took a short right under this VWAP. My stop's just going to go right here. And then the target for this one is usually the 2-day VWAP. So that's sitting around 45.90. So a little bit of flush of 45 would be interesting there as a play. So it's going to be boring. This isn't going to be one that I'm going to take a quick scalp on and be super happy and make a bunch of money. But as we're getting kind of closer to that lunchtime trade, I want to take a shot, right? I want to set my stop, set my profit target, and then just kind of let it go for the day, checking in on it on my phone there kind of periodically throughout the day. But so if I'm wrong on the SPY, however, then I'll be wrong on this one as well. So what I'm looking to see on the SPY is kind of a clean break of this support right here. I just did not trust that we were going to touch that perfectly and bounce. Could be wrong, but it's just kind of the way I look at it.
Finally, a little spike there in GV. I'm up a little bit here, guys. Let's see if this can keep
Mhm.
running. I saw the volume come in also in the 250s. There was about 20,000, I'd say close to 30,000 shares there.
Wow.
So Ross, if you're stuffing me, I see you out there. But we'll see what happens if this starts to get back above the 260 spot. It ran into the 250s again. You can see the slowdown in the 250s. There's just seller. There's a seller that keeps selling in that 250s. So now I'm seeing a little bit of a wall, maybe towards that 260s here. 260s, 262, right? I'm seeing it about this is common where I'm seeing the kind of the 2 cent in between and a decent sizing there. So a lot of volume now transacting. It has the ability to go. Now the only question is, will it go, right? So looking to see if it can get back through that 260s going towards 3. But right now, we just haven't been able to get the continuations. And I'm looking to see if this is going to be it, but we'll see what happens here.
Yeah,
Kinda-
if GB gets, if it breaks or get close to high of day, I'm gonna be interested in it for sure. But
Yeah.
so far, I still don't like it so much. I prefer just to wait and see what happens. But I don't want to stay here also here trading all day. Probably gonna be here for a little bit more, 3 more minutes or max an hour. If nothing happens, I'm good. Call it a day and just come back tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
The and something I think that was important that you point out there, right? Because we do have a bunch of people from our friends the Fivers who are more
Yeah.
FX and index. It's very interesting to see. I was talking about the index when I was talking about my particular trade because GM is a big company and is therefore probably going to move a little bit with the index. I'm hoping that if I'm right more than the index. If I'm wrong less than the index, that kind of thing. Whereas what Mitch is talking about, doesn't care about the SPY. This GV
Yeah.
just will not move in relationship to the S&P 500 at all. So you can find things that can either give you leverage or at least relative strength and weakness to the overall markets, or you can find things that are completely unrelated and uncorrelated to the markets. Now,
Yeah.
they're going to move way faster, right? And so if you're coming from a forex and commodities and index market, something like GV, take your time with. It's going to be a much wilder thing than you've ever seen. But there is certainly edge there, and there is edge outside the market. So if you have something where you're trading the market, this could be an additional thing to it where there might be a little bit of edge there.
Taking a shot here, guys, on the VIX VXX, short on the VXX there. Kind of a VWAP break there that I'm trying to get short off of, seeing if it's going to be able to hold here and then start to crumble. Of course, this would mean markets coming back up. So let's see if the Qs come back here towards 498s and the SPY can get to 580s. Of course, you could wait for that break to happen. I'm just trying to get against the VIX here. And that's where I think I got away from it when the market came down, and it could have been because it, just cut me out sometimes. I feel like the VIX is such a interesting vehicle to trade sometimes, guys. So looking around to see if this can keep coming down. We're looking better now down towards the 50s now. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a flush down here. I'll show you guys that chart in just a second here, guys. It's just on a different chart. I need to get to the ability where I could switch it a little bit faster here, but I got you guys.
When the other thing is, I was going to ask you why the VIX? Why not UVXY? You ever traded UVXY?
Leverage. Honestly, the VXX moves, I think, just as much. At least it's just it moves more sense wise, right, than the UVIX. We can take a look at the UVIX in a second here. The problem with the UVIX, I feel like it's tighter. It doesn't have that tendency of giving me the kind of the 60-cent pop or 60-cent drop. And I haven't done well with it. I've also done good with the VIXY. So I've done that one before. The VIXY, the ProShare one. But for some reason, it's the VXX or the VIXY that I have a tendency of doing pretty well in. So I just kind of stick with those. So now at this point, this is kind of the VWAP fake out fade where you got back above VWAP 1, 2, 3, and now you're starting to attempt that support. It needs to wash the 50 here though and stay below the VWAP, right? That's going to be the signs of weakness here. Now that you're cutting back below the VWAP here, back towards the high, and it could rip out through the 51. So you got to be quick here. Let's see what happens.
Well, that's another good I think lesson for the forex and index crew that are joining us, is that there's so many ETFs and different vehicles out there in the market now that are tradable.
Phew.
It's
Yeah.
just insane. Like you want to take a bet
Oh,
on
dance,
home
dance.
pricings. Oh, that was a bit ago. I already danced this. You were hyper focused.
I gotta dance, gotta keep dancing, gotta keep dancing.
But yeah, there's a lot when it comes to just different ways to kind of skin the same beast. Like we just went through. If you want to
Don't
trade
skin
the
no
VIX,
cats though.
there is 5 different ways that you can trade the VIX here. Like there's, super leverage, kind of leveraged, a little bit in the middle leverage. There's whatever.
That's what it is, man. It's what you trade, what works for you. That's what I say. Trade what works for you and find those stocks that work for you also, right? There's certain stocks that I tell you guys I struggle trading. And then there's certain stocks that just do really well, right? And I can do it repeated. Like Tesla is one of the hardest dragons to tame. I've had good trades, I've had really bad trades on Tesla. There's a reason why. That volatility is hard to get around, man. And you got to find what works for you and what doesn't.
And then there's another one there, right? TSLL is a way to get double the leverage on Tesla. So, this doesn't mean you take double the risk. It just means you need to only have half the buying power, right? So you could trade more instruments at once because you're not going to tie up as much buying power. Again, I could definitely see a world when I'm done with this AVWAP kind of fade strategy, in which the only thing that I'm trading is these leveraged ETFs. I could just make a list of these leveraged ETFs and just focus on those throughout the day, where there'd be still like 50 different instruments for me to go through. I've been doing a lot more on, the SPXL. I watched a video that we have, and speaking of video, let me get this queued up and we'll show you our video on demand site here.
What?
But just grab this. But I was watching a video of one of our funded traders who just traded SPXL, right?
Yeah. Why not? Right. I mean, sometimes it's, it's not as sexy, but why not just trade one thing, right?
And it was a way to get a good amount of leverage from this here. Let's pop over here. I got this loaded up. So we'll put this in the chat as well. But if you haven't checked this out yet, now I've got so many things on my screen. I just lose things sometimes. There we go. Let's take a look. So I'll put that in the chat. If you haven't checked this out, you definitely should. I'm going to go here and I'm going to make sure we don't need to dance. Oh, we need to dance. I think we need to dance.
I got you. Tune.
All right, there we go. So new site. It's in the chat now. You can check it out.
Click that link, guys. Click that link. Check it out. Check out all the videos, man. This is like Netflix on steroids for traders.
Mm-hmm. You've got podcasts. You've got just ranking the most popular ones. You have funded traders, how these people got funded, what was their trading strategy. These are my favorite. You just watch through and find some of these strategies that work for you, and ways that you can potentially emulate their strategy, and just see the different possibilities out there for trading, right? Some stuff in the pre-market, right, to collaborations with different places. And then just, if you need help setting up your workspace, it's right there, right? So definitely check that out. But I was watching that, and the person was basically just trading SPXL. So that made me think that every time I get a little hunch here on the SPY, might be a place to look at, just to get, again, a little bit of more of that leverage, so I can use up a little bit less buying power while taking the same risk. So if I have some other ideas, I can take trades based off those ideas as well.
All right, guys, we're getting a nice little market move here now, guys. I'm actually setting up a stop in the profits here for the VXX trade there, setting up the 49.60s. And why? Because it's right on the range break, right? We keep getting stuck on the range for me not to take the money, right? Like that's the one thing I got to do here. And I feel like it could be finally the time that the Qs breaks the range, but that's just asking for it, right? At this certain time, that's me being greedy right there, right? So I'll take the trade there. I'm all out there. You guys saw it on the left. They all went out there. Also, GV did a nice little liquidity search right there, guys. So I'm all on GV there. I lost like $1.50. gave myself the shot for like 10, 15 minutes for it to really go. Another liquidity kind of wick there that got me out. But took the cash there on the VIX there. Nice little trade, nice little bounce back trade. Let's see if the Qs can actually break the range now, or does it just go back to VWAP, right? So we'll see what
Talking
happens
about
here. What do you
talking
got?
about the VOD of
Yeah.
gold. That I remember joining TTP since the beginning, and there wasn't a lot of resources at that time, from TTP, but I remember watching all the videos of all the new people coming in, having success. It really helped me a lot, and
Mhm.
I remember taking a little bit from each trader, right? Oh, I like this strategy or this portion of this strategy, how he does it, and added that to my personal strategy, and that helped me to come up with different strategies that help me, as you were saying very early today, that it is good to have different strategies because for the different conditions of the market, different times of the
Yeah.
market. So it is good to
Mhm.
watch the videos, take whatever you think is going to work for you from each trader. It's going to help a lot.
I agree. I think you
Yeah.
have to have it, right? It's like being a construction worker and only having a hammer.
Right.
Mhm.
It's just not going to work out for you. You're going to do a lot of things with that hammer, right? But there's going to be a
Absolutely.
certain time where the job calls for a different tool.
Mhm.
You got to have a different tool, guys. And maybe it's just the opposite of your pattern too. Don't get it twisted that you can't just maybe stick to one strategy. Maybe it's shorting that strategy, right? And things like that, right? Maybe you play bull flags to the upside, but in this case, you want to start looking for the reversal on that bull flag, right?
Mhm.
You're just seeing it happen too often. So you're going to play it, but the opposite way, right? I just think it's just all about having different tools in the tool belt. One of the number one things that I would say is that can give you an advantage here is actually taking the data. You have to do the hard work. Ask Michael. He knows all about that hard work.
Well, and it's, when it comes to,
Yeah,
I
man.
think that is the work of trading, right? I think a lot of people confuse the work of trading with sitting and marking up charts and, right, staring at levels and blah, blah, blah. The work of trading is coming up with the strategy. And then after that, you should be pretty robotic about how you execute it. It should be I'm identifying something that is part of one of these strategies. I've done some amount of testing and some amount of work to prove to myself that this is something that makes sense. Well, I'm gonna hit that button and take that trade. And then what that ends up doing is, as soon as you get robotic like that, now your brain is kind of freed up to say, well, now I get to do the next strategy and the next strategy and the next. So for me on the swing trading side of things, as a systematic guy, currently have 4, and I spend most of my time working on strategy 5, 6, and 7. I want to build different ideas, and that just makes my life a lot easier, right? So the actual work of trading, we should be able to systematize that quite a bit, right? It's one of those things in which we have these systems now. We have alerts, right? You guys see me look down every now and then. It's because for some reason TradingView's not sending the alert to my computer, but it's still sending it to my watch, so I can look down. I can see what thing is triggered, and then I bring it up, and if I like it, I take the trade. And that's kind of the process you want to go through, where you don't want to be staring at a million different charts and overwhelming yourself mentally all the time. You come in, you have your ideas, you set your levels, you set your alerts, and you just kind of wait for things to trigger, right? So that's kind of what we're looking at here.
All right.
So
Another thing.
um I
Go
was
ahead.
gonna
Go
change the
ahead.
topic. Sorry, I was gonna say
You're
I
good, my
saw
friend.
KNW. KNW. Do you know
And
what's going on with that? I mean, very low
KNW.
volume. I wouldn't trade at all because it's very low volume for sure. But it's
I don't
interesting
even.
to see.
Holy smokes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting
8
to see
cents to
what's happening.
$5. Ooh,
Yeah,
that's
and it got halted again. Last halt it was a
I don't even have the
370,
ticker.
and from 370 it jumped to above $5. Now it is
yeah,
halted at
this
550.
is this
It's
is
crazy.
obviously, don't trade. This is really
Yeah,
weird, but
no.
from 8 cents to $5 today, um this seems like a glitch in the matrix. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, yeah.
KNW. I don't even have it, man.
You don't
That's
even
when you know
have.
it's bad. I don't even have it on my
Yeah.
on my platform.
TC 2000 was like, don't even
Don't
look
bring
at
that
it.
into our
Don't
platform,
even trade
dude.
it.
Yeah,
Don't
and-
do anything.
And I'll tell you, a lot of times I have it, right? Like, so if I don't have it, there's a problem there.
Day trade with Tony says reverse split. They do it in the middle of the day. Like what?
Yeah, reverse
They
split in
must
the middle of
have.
the day. Yeah, that's what they probably did.
Oh,
They
yeah,
probably
They
did
must
it.
have
reverse
halted
split.
it and then reverse split it and then reopened it. So the charts are a little. If you look at the daily chart, this makes a little bit more sense. They're not. It's just such a know nothing company that they haven't split adjusted it yet, right? So,
Jorge, do you play those like real pennies? Because that's what I've been seeing
No.
also. So like what's been showing up on the scanners for me a lot is like this ARBB trade right now. And I find
I
these so
don't.
hard, man. Like you have to go so big size that
mm,
it's very difficult, right? Like I've been seeing a
Yeah.
lot of these, the true pennies, right? And these love
Mhm.
to go from around 70 cents to $1, maybe $1.20 and come right back down. Right.
Yeah.
So you
Mhm.
have to be careful with these. It's very hard to trade them. I am seeing a little bit of some trend in the market now. Let's see if we can actually get some movement. I was even thinking about shorting the VIX again there at the 50s, but I was like, you know what? Try not to get pretty with it. Actually look for the range break now. And then I can try to look to jump in on the party after that. So let's see if we can actually start getting some action. And I'm just basing this on the VIX itself. Let's see what happens, right? So we'll see if we actually get the move, the continuation. But yeah, those penny names, they're coming in on the scanner nonstop, man. And that's one thing. Like there's CENN. That's another one that's out there. That's one of the top movers. And then I saw a couple this morning. This PRTS is just above $1. So those are the hardest ones. Those are the ones that I just say that, you know, to trade them, even the gurus, even the furus avoid them. There's a reason why, because they got to go so big. Like if we got to go big, they got to go even bigger, right? They're going to go 100,000 shares to get into this thing, close to 1 million shares. They just can't do that, right? Because you're going to also, with certain traders, certain brokerages, they're going to pay a huge fee on that amount of volume, right? So that's one thing that I'd be looking at. They have been working though, and that's what happens, I think, with penny stocks is that there's different ones that web and flow, and you have to stay with them to understand when things are hot and when things are not, right? Right now, it's not hit. I'm not seeing the pre-market trade where you're seeing, let's say, 3 or 4 names up over 100% in the morning. That's not what you're seeing out there. You're seeing a bunch of like up 17%. Well, that's not much right there. And a lot of times these penny stock traders are looking for something that's at least up 20% to start off the day and then seeing what happens from there. So
when another difference from forex to the market too that I think you kind of alluded on is that there seems to be more of a pace that you can go through. So again, someone who traded forex, I traded forex with the fivers. You can actually find my video on their thing. The problem I end up having, and one of the reasons I ended up stopping, is that market's open all the time. So it gets really, really hard to, I'm like up in the middle of the night, like and I'm just like, this
taking a little peek on your phone,
But yeah, you can get a lot done when it comes to day trading and to day trading stocks, because you get up in the morning, you see things gapping, and like you mentioned, there wasn't a lot today. When I was going through my gap scanners, not a lot. So I know going into the day, it's probably going to be a pretty chill day, unless we get a tweet. Right? We're in the world that a tweet can change everything. But yeah, we're kind of chopping a little bit, and sometimes you wake up, you go through those scanners, there's tons. But I like the fact that there is a open and that there is a close, and it's so there's a bit of a quality life thing there as well. That's why when I get back, because I will be back to forex and all of that, I'm gonna definitely have to systematize and automate some of it, just because it's a lot. It's open a long time. Got a question on a time frame. For me personally, since is 5 minutes the best time frame, I think it's good. I think it's one of those. It's going to depend on your strategy entirely, right? For me, you see, I'm on 2-minute charts all the time. It's 1-minute charts are a little bit too choppy for me. 5 minutes charts a little bit too slow, and it's because I've tested this particular AVWAP fade strategy that I'm doing, and it's based off that. Now, for my swing trading, if you're holding longer, I'm looking at 30-minute charts, right? I'm doing dailies and I'm doing 30-minute charts as well. So it is very, very strategy dependent, I think. 1-minute charts, I think, is great for scalpers. 5-minute charts is going to be good if you're planning on holding. What I always look at and what I always say is you're trying to predict like the next, say, 5 bars or something of price action. That's kind of what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to hold for 5 days, you use the daily chart, right? If you're trying to hold for 10 minutes, you use a 2-minute chart. If you're trying to hold for, just a 5 to 10 minutes, you'd use a 1 minute. If you're trying to hold for a half hour or so or an hour, then 5-minute charts. That's the way I look at it anyways. Just look at how long you're looking to, or you're planning on holding trades, and then adjust the time frame you're looking at down accordingly to that, right? So yeah, and I see you're backing me up there too, right? It's very strategy dependent, right? Scalpers are going to use the 1 or the 2-minute, longer term traders, the 5 or the 15, that type of thing.
And like you said, it depends on how long do you want to be in the trade should be one of the questions that you should be asking yourself, right? So that should also determine your time frame, right? Because if I want to be in a trade in minutes, maybe a minute chart makes sense, right? If I want to be in the trade in, let's say, an hour, well, maybe I want to look at the hourly chart, right? And I think that this is what you need to be asking yourself. How long do you expect to be in these trades? Also, take a look at your statistics. How long is your average trade? That should also be something that you should be thinking about. Average winners, you're in for 3 or 4 minutes. Well, then you know where you got to go, a short time frame. Now, if you look at your average winners and that trade is an hour or 2 hours long, well, then you might need to start changing to a bigger time frame because that's what you're really trading, right? So another thing we'll tell you is just look deeper into your statistics. That could already give you some insight.
Statistics are everything. The numbers are absolutely everything.
All right, guys. The chop continues. Man, and I wonder and you can take a look at it, but just if you just traded the range today on the Qs or the SPY, how many times could you have traded it, right? Like how many times could you have bought, sold, bought, sold, bought, sold, bought?
We were talking in this, right, in the room right here. I was saying, hey, if this holds on, this price action to those numbers, I'm buying. And I was going to buy the SPXL, and it came all the way to the top. And this is when you guys came in, and I was saying, hey, it looks like we're fading. We're fading this pre-market low. So there's at least 2 trades that you could have gotten. And I'm not saying I would have gone from all the way to the top to the bottom or whatever, but at least 2 of those. And it just seems like one of those days. Do we have like a massive? Oh no, there is nothing tomorrow. We looked at this.
I'm going for it. There is initial jobless claims tomorrow. I would watch that. Initial jobless claims will be making an effect. The biggest report this week is Friday's jobs report. That's what people are watching, but it's almost a given to see a spike there. So the only thing that could really surprise is not a spike there, right? So you can see it in the ADP reaction that we got earlier this week. So the expected move is that we're going to see some unemployment show up. And this is from the federal workers getting fired from Doge. So we'll see what happens here, right? I'm taking another shot on the VIX short. That's just me, guys. Maybe I'm just being a little greedy here, but I'm taking another shot here off of the VWAP. So it came back to VWAP, so I'll just short right off of that, right, and see what happens here. But I think that's what we need to be looking for. That jobs report is going to be very important. That jobs report, I think, will be the thing to look at the CME Fed Watch tool to see what happens with the interest rate outlook, because that's what really it's going to adjust. We talked about it earlier, the pressure that Jerome Powell's starting to get, right? And the number one thing that could happen is a jobs report showing that unemployment's starting to spike. That's going to put more pressure on him to figure out what he can do to try to offset that.
Could also give him an excuse, right, to pump rates, right? Or to lower rates, and you may be looking for that as well, and just waiting for an excuse that he can go, see here, right? I'm data driven. I'm data driven. It's not that I'm getting bullied. It's I'm data driven.
Now data's out. Now data's out. Exactly.
And speaking of JPOW, right? That's another thing that I noticed when I was in here. 12:30 on Friday, JPOW talks. So we could be in it, and that would be interesting. The reason we're preparing for this now, with just a couple minutes left here, is we're already preparing for tomorrow. So if today remains choppy, we kind of know why now, because there are some big events that are coming both Thursday and Friday, and it could be one of those things where tomorrow is the same, and we can already start to prepare for today's trade by saying, hey, again, tomorrow could be the same. So that doesn't mean we're not going to do anything tomorrow. Just might mean, hey, let's kind of start being a buy the dip, sell the rip type of trader tomorrow. If it's going to be choppy, you can still make some money. We just have to be buying, bidding down at support and then selling down at resistance. Now, hopefully there's going to be a slew of earnings that's going to make things a little bit interesting as well. So yeah, but we're right. We could not be any more in the middle of this overall range today, for sure.
No, it's 10:55. One thing that I will say is that I don't think this is ever going to break the range during the average day trading time, right? And that's one thing that I will say, guys. I feel like they're just chopping up day traders, and it just happens. It happens often, right? And so I think one of the things you got to be looking at is to see if this range breaks between, and especially between kind of the 11, like kind of the lunchtime to 2 p.m., somewhere between there is where I think this range eventually breaks. And then the algos would just run it in a direction. And that's the toughest thing, because you're just there just watching and waiting. And it just depends on how long do you want to be here in the seat, right? Because for most traders, they don't want to be here all day, right? Let's just be honest. They just don't want to be watching charts all day. So with that being said, then you got to maybe set alerts to bring you back to the market if things start to break. That's why I'm with you on the 24-hour market, and being on the Fiverr side is just tough, because it's just like, holy moly, guys, there's no sleeping. And when my kids start crying and I got to go take care of them, there's no pulling out the phone and trading, right? And so that's just going to be very difficult to do. Right. So we'll see what happens here, guys. Can we get some more breakdown? I took the VIX already there. Seeing it come down, but it's not just completely dropping. One thing that got me a little bit more excited on was the amount of volume that came in when it came back to VWAP. On the VXX, I got a volume spike where it went from volume trading at, let's say, 46,000 shares. It went to 137,000 shares. So to me, that was just someone taking the bet. Very similar like I am, right? Whether it's to the upside there or downside off of the VWAP, I can see people taking bets.
Yeah.
GM being mentioned in the chat. GM.
Is that good morning, or is that because my stock, I'm looking at it, not doing anything? You never know, right? Are they saying good morning?
I thought it was good morning.
No, to me, it's GM, man. Well, I think GM has the struggle, man. I can't believe the chart has hung on this much. What does this tell me? Some institutions are holding this bad boy for sure.
Well, and this is being a massive component, or a fairly large component of the S&P 500.
Yeah.
Right? We need, so for this, basically, you don't even need to look at GM to see if my trade ends up working out or not. You just got to look at the SPY. If the SPY breaks down from here, then GM is most definitely going to come with it, and vice versa, right? You can see it's not participating so much in the rallies if we go to GM, but it's just not doing anything. I knew this one would be boring going into it, right? It didn't surprise me at all that, hey, it's one of those where we just, take a shot and go from there, right? But it's not like a super exciting trade where I'm going to be in and out. I'm essentially planning on holding this for the remainder of the day, my stop out or my profit target. Those are the three exit conditions here. So it's, my stop loss is high of the day. My profit target's this 2-day VWAP, which is sitting right at 45.95. So a little flush of that $46 even, or right end of the day. Right. And then the beauty of that is you don't have to think too much about it anymore. You're just saying, okay, I've got so I'm in around here, my stop loss right there, my profit targets like that. So that's a 2.25 risk reward. So it means if I'm right half of the time, then that's going to make a lot of money in the long run. And you just kind of let everything work. I've got Trade the Pool, of course, installed on my phone. So I got a alarm now set about 10 minutes or so to the close, just to open it up and check, see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't need to look at it.
Yeah, and the best traits, set them and forget them on the swing side of things. That's the way that I've seen them. You work hard to get a really nice day trade entry, and then you look to see if it becomes a nice swing trade, right?
Yep.
Keep a piece. Things like that I think are really nice. All right, guys, like always, it looks like Rando even sending you a good email there, so you might have to check that out.
Yeah, I'll
like
check that
always,
out.
guys, we'll keep pushing. And you guys out there, if you guys are giving us some feedback, like always, or looking to see some different things, that's what we're here for, guys. So let us know. We'll keep pushing, guys. We'll see what happens out there. If we're able to kind of get a little bit of some more trades out here. And man, that was a little bounce there in the VIX where it spread it out, got me on the top end of that right there. So I'm out on that one. Didn't take too much of a hit there, but definitely saw some slippage there. Just be careful out there, guys. It's one of those days where they're just chopping us up, chopping us up, chopping us up. At some point, maybe we break the range, but this is when it just goes to show you that, I mean, we've essentially went within yesterday's range and are tighter than yesterday's range. So it's crazy. Man, it's going to be a tough market like this, guys. Gold is an area that that they were watching on the Fivers, guys, side of things. So keep your eyes on that. I would watch it too. Gold had a really good move earlier, but then has just been kind of going sideways since then. You can see that in JNUG. If you guys take a look at that, I'll just take a quick peek here. You can see how JNUG has been kind of holding sideways here, but it hasn't gone anywhere since that opening drive, right? So we'll see what happens there. And of course, that's kind of like more your safety trade there. Dancing, dance. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Last comments from Jorge. What would you tell the traders out there, especially in this environment?
Yeah, just take it easy. Be patient. Wait for the setups to come to you. Don't chase them, and that's gonna pay out in the future, in the long term as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And you got to be able to take haircuts. Just try not to get married to a trade during this time, right?
Exactly.
It's very easily in certain environments. It seems prudent to kind of hold on sometimes, but in this market environment like this, where you're getting chopped, understand that chop will come with more stops and less accuracy. That's just what comes with it. All right, guys, we're done for the day today, guys. We'll be back, of course, tomorrow and battling. We'll see what happens with the initial jobless claims. Those drop at 8:30 tomorrow, so keep your eyes open for that. We'll start to show up and get after it. Like always, you guys that joined from the Fivers side, it was great to be with you guys on the Fivers side, and now here joining us on Trade the Pool. Like always, you guys can check out Trade the Pool for yourself. Maybe you want to look into stocks. There's a demo account that you guys can use to take a look into this. See if you can go ahead and jump on both sides, right? Maybe you can do some Forex trading overnight with some different action and then come in here for the open and try to make some trades. Check it out, team. We'll be back tomorrow. And like always, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and we all get in the pool. Question is, who's getting out of the pool? Well, today, battle day for me. Funded account down 43. Other account just battling back and forth. Right now, I'm still down a little bit, down about 184. Got to keep battling on the day. We'll find out what happens.